Okay, hi everyone. Sorry I couldn't do today's class online. I'm having some internet troubles. So we're gonna do it this way with pre-recorded interview videos instead. I don't think that should be any problem. So first things first, we're gonna go through a little bit more on importing the raw data and specifically the psychometric data. So if we look here, I have my project for the monitoring technology analysis and just opening it up. If we have a look here at the full Excel document with the questionnaire answers from all of you, you can see that if we just have a look at it, again, we see that we have all of the participants in here. So you're gonna need to at the first step filter out the user that you're interested in. Now we did look at this a little bit in the last class, but we're gonna go through it once again just to make sure. Now if you know, so if you have a look here and see that you know that you filled in the ID the exact same way every time. So for example, we can see here ID 99, or if you click here, if you have Excel, we can check here. So okay, number 99 is always going to look exactly the same. So if you have one of these ID numbers that you're sure that every time you filled in the questionnaire, or your partner filled in the questionnaire, that it has exactly the same ID number, then what you can do is, if we open this up in our studio and we go to our clean data, what we're going to do here is again, this is a slightly updated version of the one we created and I shared last week. So I'm going to reshare this new one with a couple of small changes that we go through. So again, what we did last week, or sorry, 2 weeks ago, was that we added the person ID here within the person information. So if you here know that, okay, it's exactly this way, then you just choose the ID number you want here. So if we have a look at the psychometric Excel, you can see here that, okay, participant ID 99, or if you are the one that is supposed to analyze the participant ID 63, then you go with the then you just switch here to 63, right? And what this will do when we start to load all the packages, then we add person ID, and you need to add the maximum heart rate for the HR calculation. Now you see that we have this value person ID saved in our environment, right? So now when we read the Excel of all the psychological data, psychometric data, so we run this one, and now that we look at this, you see that at first, now we read the full document with all the ID numbers in here, right? And then all the values. That's the one we call data raw cycle, right? Is the raw data that we just read in from the Excel file. Now, next step is almost always, so we read the raw data. Next step is almost always to clean the data. And so it comes in this block of code here. And what we are doing here is, sorry, let's actually move this one up here and it reads a bit better. So in this here line here, we're gonna do couple of things. First of all, let's move this one actually, so we just put all the mutate in the same. So first step in this is the filter, and as you see here, we say we want to filter out and only keep the rows where the ID in the raw psycho file, the data raw psychological, here this column is equal to the person ID, right? And the person ID is here. Person ID in this case is 63. So when we run this and look at the data clean psychological, then we already, because we actually unselect ID column because we don't need it anymore. But if you just if we take this out partly and do like this, so we're only gonna run the filtering. Now when we look at data clean psychological, you will see that we only have all the rows for the ID 63, right? And then we're gonna just undo this, so we run the full pipeline again with some mutating, creating some functions. Some, like the date, we said that since the date that you fill in the questionnaire is 1 day after the date that you talk about in the questionnaire, we need to subtract 1 day from it. So if you have a single unique ID number in every row, that's the easiest way to go. Just the person ID, choose the person ID here. Now, I saw that some of you, if we open the Excel again, have a little bit different ways of filling in. So here, for example, we have a problem with the one with ID number 3278063 and then in parentheses 70. You see that these two are not exactly the same. Here's a space and here's not a space. That means that if you just put it in one of these ones, then you will miss a bunch of rows because you will only get and same here, that we have a couple of different here is missing a 7, here is a space, and here is not a space. So you see that then these ones are going to be different. If this happens, here we see Mario, you used two different, like the full and the not full name and these things. So if this happens, you can either change this. So if we take this case, for example, where we have a space here and not a space here, one option could be that you here in Excel just manually change. You see here is one that has the space and all the other ones don't have the space. So if you would just fix it here, now you will see here that we only have one, we don't have two different. So that's one way to like manually update it. Another way, if you have several different ways of writing it, one, I would maybe say that the easiest way could be to just manually delete all the rows in the Excel that you're not interested in. Like let's take Metwali as an example. Sorry for the pronunciation. In this case, we have different order, and we have only one name, two names, and some different order. So in this case, maybe the easiest would actually be to delete. So in directly in the Excel, delete all the rows that are not in here, that doesn't correspond with you, with this person, and then you do that for all of them. Like, it's a bit of manual work, but that's the downside of not having it written all the same. You do that, and then here when you read the file, we can actually go through and do it. So we're gonna delete here. No, we're not. So you do it this way, and then in this case, since you already filtered out all the rows that you are interested in the Excel, then we don't need to filter it out in R. So in this case, you could just remove the person ID, and then important to get your data, remove the filter line when you are cleaning the psychometric data. Okay, so that's the two recommended ways. If you have all this exactly the same ID in this column, then you just do it that way. Sorry. And if you have different names, I would just manually fix that in the Excel. And in that case, make sure to remove person ID and remove the filtering when you clean the psychometric data. If you have more questions and don't manage about it, then let me know. Then one thing we didn't do in last class was, since we talked about that a lot of these questions, if we again, we run from the top now and we look at our data clean, we have a bunch of different questionnaire data here, right? We have the physical performance, mental performance, emotional balance, general recovery. And if you look here, we can see the full question and the scale. So these ones are from 0 to 6. Then we have some that are 1 to 7. These ones are all individual questions or items from two scales. So one scale is the SRSS, the short recovery and stress scale, and they are the questions that are 0 to 6. Now, a lot of times when you do these kind of psychometric questionnaires, you ask several different questions, but then you create an index. So you somehow put them together to get a final score. And in this case, we're working with 3 indices. We have from the SRSS scale, we have SRSS recovery. That is the physical, the mental, emotional, and general recovery capacity. And in this case, they go from 0 to 24 when you put these together, because each question is 0 to 6. So you just add them together and you can go from 0 to 24. In this case, higher score is better recovery. And then there is another part of the questions, the strain, lack of activation, emotional imbalance, general fatigue, where higher score is more strain. So higher score is bad. So these are the two, you call them the two subscales or indices of the SRSS questionnaire. And then there's the Hooper index, that is from the questions that are rated 1 to 7. So here we get a range from, it's 4 questions and the minimum is 1, so we go from 4 to 28 in this one. And in this case, higher score is worst well-being. So the lower score, the better. Now to calculate these ones in R is quite easy. What we do here, when we have our raw psychometrical data, we filter out the person if we need. Then we don't need the ID column because we already filtered out the ID. We don't need the comments because we're not going to analyze the comments in this case. We fix the date, and then now here is where we calculate these scales. So the SRSS recovery scale is just the column for physical performance plus mental performance plus emotional balance plus general recovery. And then the other one, the stress, is muscular strain, lack of activation, emotional imbalance, and general strain. And then the Hooper is sleep quality plus stress plus fatigue plus muscular pain. So when we run this now and we check the data clean psychological, you'll see here that we have all the questionnaire, right? Here we have the about the training, and then you see here in the end that we have the calculation of the three scales: SRS's recovery, SRS's stress, and the Hooper scale, which is these indices. So that is what we're going to do with the psychometrical data. We're going to change back here to 99 to be able to run it. So now when we run through everything, you can go step by step like this, and we're going to get to if we look at the data joined like before, now you're going to see that we have the questionnaire data, then we have the stress or the three indices, and then we have all the other data from the HR and HRV data that we're analyzing.